A very happy Wednesday to you. Thanks for joining us tonight on Unscripted. Let's start off talking about the wonderful weather we're having. Pretty much a complete opposite of what we saw yesterday. The snow is gone for the most part and replaced with some beautiful sunshine and some warmer temperatures.
And that's what we want, right?
Yes.
I've been getting some calls. People have said they don't want the snow anymore. I guess we have to listen at some point, right?
Yes, that would be a good time.
All jokes aside, it was, obviously, as you mentioned, a very nice day today. It's going to be another nice day tomorrow, and it will be significantly warmer. Some temperatures will be in the higher 60s. Even some low 70s will be possible at times tomorrow. Okay. Right. See, we'll take that.
Yeah.
And right behind that heat dome is another system moving through that'll give us rain, not snow, and also storms with some severe weather possible. We've got some hail and damaging wind potentially in the forecast. Otherwise, it looks like just a rainy and storm event that'll move through the region very early Friday morning. So we'll talk about that and cover your Easter weekend when we come back in just a few minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Trevor. Well, it seems like it's safe to say most of us these days probably have a cell phone. But have you ever stopped to think about how much your cell phone has changed? Let's say since 2018, all of the software updates in those 7 years, all of the new features, maybe even an entirely new phone. There's no doubt that technology has changed a lot since 2018, and Grand Traverse County is aware of how much the technology has changed because they are currently working with 7-year-old technology to answer and deal with 911 calls. But as Mark Gillette reports, they say it's time for an upgrade.
The item that I have before you today is a termination of an intergovernmental agreement.
Corey LaCure's first public action as the newly hired GT County 911 director, he literally learned he got the job on the way up to the podium this morning, was to take steps to help his team of emergency dispatchers have the tools they need in the future.
I believe Grand Traverse County does need more modern technology and a better call handling system.
But before any upgrades can happen here, the county needed to give notice that they were terminating an intergovernmental agreement with other counties that was established back in 2018, sharing some 911 dispatch technology and hubs in Traverse City and Petoskey, but serving a handful of counties in between. It was a cost-saving move that may not have worked out so well.
And it was a great idea. We saved a lot of money on it, but sometimes you get what you pay for. It hasn't worked very well since the beginning.
LaCure says under the current multi-county agreement, they couldn't upgrade the 7-year-old technology used to handle 911 calls without risking incompatibility issues with other counties on the old system.
Today was the first step in a multi-step process. It was an important step.
And county commissioners unanimously voted to take that step, but had questions about what happens to find its replacement.
What concerns me is that we have no information about the replacement. We have no cost, we have no timeline. I mean, the timeline is later this year, but I don't recall hearing about that in the budget last year. I did review the budget from last year and I see no discussion about it.
But LaCure says there will be. Purchasing a new 911 system will follow the standard bidding and purchasing processes for what's expected to be about a $1 million expense.
We are going to notify our partners officially that we've already let them know informally, but formally we'll let them know that we're leaving the agreement, and then we will select a vendor in 2026 for the new 911 call taking system. We will build that system up while we still have the old system running, hopefully, and then we'll be able to seamlessly move from the old system to the new.
That was Mark Gillette reporting. And again, today's vote by county commissioners is just to give the approval for the end of that intergovernmental agreement. The actual purchase of a new 911 system will have to go through the budget process and will be back in front of commissioners at a future date. Let's take a look at our question of the day, somewhat related to the story. We were talking about cell phones, and so we want to know, how long have you had your current cell phone? Scan the QR code on your screen right now. They'll take you to our website where you can vote, and we have about 220 votes right now. The majority of votes are saying they've had their cell phone for about 3 to 4 years, but we will continue to keep an eye on those results and look at them towards the end of the show and a few of your comments on Facebook as well. Moving on to our next story, the Women's Resource Center in the Grand Traverse area is celebrating a pretty major milestone, 50 years of serving the community. And what started off as a group of just 9 women teaching life skills has turned into a mission to support survivors of abuse. Our Allie Baxter dives into the history today.
we're not going to turn anyone away. Resource is a part of our name for a reason.
Since its founding in 1975, the Women's Resource Center for the Grand Traverse area has made it a priority to empower women.
A group of 9 women who actually founded the WRC, and at that point in time, the focus was to help women re-enter the workforce and find childcare.
That focus changed after a Kalkaska County domestic violence and murder case received national attention. Jeanette Smith's story would echo hundreds of others who would later come through the doors of the center seeking shelter and support.
50 years later, and we are still fighting the same fight. We're still advocating for the same cause.
A newspaper clipping from the 80s says staff then were taking a few hundred calls a year. According to Executive Director Juliette Schultz, that number has grown to 5,000 annually.
There are still a lot of taboos around talking about this issue. But statistically, we know that 1 in 4 women are impacted by domestic violence in their lifetimes. So it's safe to assume that we have people in our inner circles who have been impacted.
That's why the center's attention pivoted to domestic and sexual violence issues, opening an emergency shelter and thrift stores to help fund operations.
We were looking for funding here.
There's hundreds of women's resource centers across the country, but what sets this one apart from others is
we're a destination location. You know, Northern Michigan is where a lot of people want to visit. And when that happens to a region and our population expands 3 and 4 and 5-fold during a very specific time frame, it really puts a lot of pressure on our local systems. It creates a tremendous amount of need in our community.
In Grand Traverse County, Allie Baxter, UpNorthLive News.
And in Allie's story, you just heard from Juliette Schultz. She is the executive director with the Women's Resource Center. Well, she is joining us live now for much more on this major milestone for the Women's Resource Center. So hi, Juliette. Thanks so much for joining us on Unscripted.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So before we talk more about everything that goes on at the Women's Resource Center, I'm curious to hear more about your experience. So when did you get involved with the Women's Resource Center?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I got involved as a board member, and in 2013, I became the executive director of the Women's Resource Center.
So I'm sure every day is a little different for you, but what would, say, a typical day at the Women's Resource Center look like for you?
Every day is different. Today was kind of a crazy day. Today I spent time thanking donors. I spent time training a new staff member who's actually going to be helping us write grants. And I actually read a story from a survivor that brought me to tears. And then I went and worked on the video that we're going to be using as a promotion for the 50th anniversary.
So you're having a 50th anniversary celebration of sorts?
Indeed.
Yes. Is that open to the public?
It is. It's completely open to the public. Every May we have a special event where it's basically a community education event. And this year we're doing the same thing, and we have invited a guest and have the guest from last year, Judge Rosemarie Aquilino, who'll be leading the discussion with the guest.
Oh, all right. We'll have to talk about that more towards the end of our conversation so it can be fresh on people's minds if they are interested in it coming. But Julia, it sounds like you mentioned, every day is a little different. But I know your role and other folks who work at the Women's Resource Center, it's a tough task. You are dealing with people who have been through some of the worst moments in their entire lives. On one hand, you know that you are helping them, so you're doing a good thing. On the other hand, that's gotta be hard to hear all these stories, right?
It's really hard. There's no easy way through it, except to basically deal with it. I think the way that, we each deal with it in a different way, but what I always keep in the back of my head is that, this person has a ton of courage to be able to, like the one today who shared their story with me in writing. That is so courageous. And, I'm just reading the story. I get to the honor of reading the story, and it's not my story, it's their story. And so I really try to keep the perspective that this is the person who endured the trauma. And what we're here to do is help that person.
And what are some of the different ways that you help these people?
We have a dozen advocates who are just incredible people, and they answer our phones 24/7. We provide free and confidential support in whatever manner the survivor wants. We have an emergency shelter, so if they're fleeing a violent home, they can certainly they're certainly welcome as a guest at the shelter. And we also help out with personal protection orders. And that is a pretty long and involved process. And we have a person dedicated to that. And so we will provide that support free of charge and, again, confidentially. So 24-hour helpline, an emergency shelter, a dozen advocates taking calls 24/7, and a person who can assist with personal protection orders. It's a full service agency, and that doesn't even include our thrift shops. So
it takes a whole lot of people to provide the resources that you provide there.
Yeah, there's 47 people that I work with every day. We have 2 thrift shops, and those provide a significant amount of funding to our mission. And then there's a team of fundraisers that I'm a part of, and we get to go out and raise money to support the mission and keep our doors open and keep the guests in our shelter safe.
And obviously there is a big need for the resources that you are providing at the Women's Resource Center. One thing that really stuck out to me in Allie's story was that you are taking around 5,000 calls annually now, and that number is way up from, of course, 50 years ago. Why do you think there is such a steep increase in the number of calls?
Oh my gosh, I think that from my perspective, in the last 13 years, violence has not, nothing about it has gotten better. If anything, the effects of COVID and I mean, it's just gotten worse over time. And as a society, we've become a little bit maybe immune to violence in a way when we are surrounded by it and we're seeing it in movies. And so I think that the more that we can do with you all, and the more that we can do to continue educating our community about the fact that this affects 1 in 4 women in her lifetime, and we all know at least 4 women, I think it's just a really important message that people know that we're there to help them 24/7. And I'm grateful that we get to do that.
Yeah, and as shocking as that number is of 5,000 calls annually, that's a lot of people to be going through something so traumatic. But if you look at it on the other side of things, they are calling, they are reaching out and seeking help. And that is what is so crucial.
Exactly. It's really, we use a philosophy as called an empowerment philosophy. And so a lot of times people wonder, do we do outreach to survivors? Our perspective is we're going to wait until the survivor is ready for us to interface with them. And at that point, we interface with them however they want us to. So in whatever manner, if they just want to come talk to somebody, they can do that. If they need a little financial assistance, we can help with that. So it's really empowering that survivor wherever they're at to allow them to make decisions about their own next steps.
Sure. And really quick, Juliet, before we let you go, in about 30 seconds, how would you describe the impact that the Women's Resource Center has had in the community over these past 50 years?
Oh my gosh, that's a huge question for 30 seconds. I would say that this small, mighty organization has impacted thousands of survivors' lives over the last 50 years in our community and well beyond our community, because we don't turn anyone away. So that to me is good work. And that is all the result of the community members who have supported us and those who believe in us. And so that's a pretty tremendous undertaking, and I'm super proud to be a part of it.
Well, Juliet, thank you so much for everything that you do and for everything that all the 46 other people at the Women's Resource Center do every single day to help out our community. We really appreciate it. And thanks for joining us here on Unscripted. And Juliet did mention that event that is happening on May 21st. The Women's Resource Center is hosting an event to feature a couple of stories from 2 survivors. We have more information on that on our website, UpNorthLive.com. But we do need to take a quick commercial break. Meteorologist Trevor Robideau will have much more on your Thursday forecast coming up next.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Well, if you like today's weather, I think you might really like what's in store for us for our Thursday. More sunshine and even some warmer temperatures, right, Trevor?
Yes, a lot warmer. And I do think that at times tomorrow and also Friday, we could reach 70 in some spots. Otherwise, if that doesn't suit your fancy, or even if you don't reach 70, we'll take 60s, which a lot of people will have tomorrow.
Nice.
So it looks like it's going to be a much warmer day. But we do have some severe weather back in the forecast. Now, it's not overly severe. Most of it is just rain and storms, and we'll cover that. That'll be very early Friday morning. So we'll take a look into that, take a deep dive, rather than starting with our temperatures right now, I want to start with our dew point. And we cover this from time to time, but as a reminder, the dew point is just a number, a measure of how much moisture is in the atmosphere. And generally speaking, the lower this number is, the drier it is. So if you take a look at those numbers, teens and low 20s, it's pretty dry out there around northern Michigan. And when you combine the gustier winds that we've had at times today, especially along the east of I-75, winds have actually calmed down considerably in the past few hours. That's a trend we'll see more tonight as we come down to a mostly calm wind in spots. But when we have those higher winds and very dry conditions with basically no rain, we get this wildfire danger, which we've had today. We've had a lot of times recently, as we do have some drought in spots. And we're going to continue to see this wildfire danger over the course of tomorrow, where we continue to have dry conditions with higher temperatures until we get rain coming into the forecast later. Clear skies tonight, no problems over radar. Our next system is a low pressure building all the way over in the mountains right now. That's not even remotely close to us. And it's also very unorganized. It's a whole lot of nothing right now. But in the next 36 hours, it will turn into a whole lot of something, and it will impact us here in northern Michigan. Rain and storms with some wind and hail will be possible very early Friday morning. And I mean very early. Most of that will happen past midnight, before a lot of people were even getting out of bed. Most of this will be just some rain and storms, but wind and hail will also be possible. That's our severe threat. You look at this on Stormcast, no problems tonight leading towards tomorrow morning. Lots of sunshine, clear skies. Very few clouds passing through in the morning, no issues, maybe an isolated shower. Wind turning out of the south, gusty at 20 to 30 miles per hour. No problems in the afternoon. Now late in the evening, we'll start to see some increase in cloud cover. Our winds will also get up even more at this time. And then here comes the system very late Thursday night into Friday morning. Take a look at the time. 3:45 a.m. So this will happen, again, as I mentioned, very, very late or very, very early, depending on how you're looking at it. Some rain and potentially storms moving through the region. A good dousing of rain is what we're expecting out of the system, the most we've seen in quite some time. There's a look at our severe weather outlook. Marginal and slight risk around the region. Again, the main concerns here are some isolated areas with maybe some hail or some higher winds. Rainfall forecast, most of our heavier rain looks as right now to track into the northern lower. Some spots could see an inch, or maybe even a little more in some cases. Otherwise, we're looking at around a quarter at least in almost every area, even in the eastern upper where it does look to be mostly light rain as it passes through the region. Tonight, 20 to 32, a quiet and chilly night tonight as we're having basically no clouds or wind as our wind continues to die down tonight. And then tomorrow, increasing clouds, especially in the evening with rain and storms very, very late. Temperatures warm in some spots, especially in the northern lower with increasing southerly wind. We'll have those storms passing through the region on Friday, another warm day, but a lot more wet, of course. And then our Easter weekend looks a lot cooler, drier, but with a lot more cloud cover.
All right, thanks so much, Trevor. It's always fun to talk about sunshine and temperatures in the 70s. Not as fun to talk about a Tigers loss. So we'll leave that for Harrison Beebe to handle coming up next. Well, things looked pretty promising for the Tigers after their 9-1 win over the Brewers in Game 1 on Monday, but Game 2 and 3 didn't quite go the same way. Let's turn things over to Sports Director Harrison Beebe. Harrison, where did they go wrong?
Maya, did you just steal my 5 p.m. intro? That's what it sounded like.
Maybe that's where I got it from.
You know, I wish I could tell you because, yeah, after the 9-1 win, it was like, all right, they're chance to sweep the Brewers and stay in the lead in the AL Central, the lead in the American League, as we touched on yesterday. But my, oh my, what a difference 24 hours makes. There's now several American League teams ahead of them in the standings. It's still mid-April, so plenty of time to go up or down on this season. But yeah, 5-1 loss in Game 3. Now, they only had 1 hit in last night's game, so definitely an improvement there, and a 5-0 loss last night. Spencer Torkelson got a homer this afternoon, but that is it. The Brewers had 3 home runs, and they kind of beat up on Kiter Montero after he went through 3 strikeouts to end the first inning. So not the best week for the Tigers, but the good news is they're done with this current road trip. They're now heading back home for 3 straight series, as you can see on the big board there. Kansas City's going to be a good one. 4 games with the Royals. They're the team right below the Tigers in the Central standings. Cleveland now above Detroit for the lead. At the moment. Again, still April. San Diego is the best team in all of baseball. I believe they only have 4 losses. They're better than the Dodgers and the Yankees right now and everybody. So the Padres, that will not be an easy home series. It will be at Comerica, though. Baltimore, we know the Tigers' history with the Orioles. We know the Tigers' recent history with the Houston Astros, playing them in the wild card playoffs last fall. And then the LA Angels. That'll be a road trip to Houston and LA after they get done with this 10-game homestand over the next week and a half.
Be good to have the boys back home for a little bit. All right, Harrison, thanks so much. We are going to take one more quick commercial break, but we'll check in with our question of the day and the live results coming up next.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Grand Traverse County is looking to upgrade its 911 system after 7 years of using the same technology. So that made us wonder, how long have you had your current cell phone? You can see the live results on your screen right now. Looks like 35% say 1 to 2 years and 35% say 3 to 4 years. On our Facebook page, I wanted to see who commented the longest, and the longest I see is Victoria said she has had her phone for 6 years. I think I'm almost at that 6-year point too. I think it's time for me to get an upgrade. Well, thanks so much for joining us on Up North Live Unscripted. Enjoy the rest of your evening.